Yo guys, welcome back. This is currently Christmas Day. Hopefully you guys are having a phenomenal Christmas, and also thank you guys for tuning into the stream that we had. Hopefully you guys had a good amount of presents given to you, and hopefully you guys got to get those codes, anyone who did, and you know, we had fun with the spinning the wheel and shit like that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the gift cards. I really appreciate you tuning into the stream. This is going to be a little bit more of a serious video. I try not to make these as much as possible because I don't like being too serious. I like goofing off. I actually have some notes here that I wanted to talk about because I seem to have gotten a good amount of people upset when it comes to it seems like I have gotten a good amount of people upset in the Dark Souls community. Anyone who's watched my previous videos will know that I've talked about this before, and anyone who's watched my previous video will also understand that I don't give a fuck. But I just wanted to talk to specifically the From Software community, especially when it comes to the comments that I'm receiving based on my review on the Dark Souls review. I gave it a 3 out of 10, and I didn't think it would get as much hate as, well, nah, that's a lie. I thought it was going to get a lot of hate. There's no way that it wasn't going to get a lot of hate. I knew that it was going to be upsetting for a lot of people. I knew that people were going to do an immediate backlash because they played the game and they're like, oh, how could you be saying something so crazy? Your opinions are fucking shit. Like, there's so many things that are wrong with your opinions. And I will try to do this a little bit more serious because, again, I try not to be as serious. This is YouTube. This isn't my job. This isn't my business. This isn't my family. I could care less about people's opinions when it comes to hating on me. Honestly, I own a business. There's nothing that anybody could do or say that I have not already heard, especially out of my 8 years of living. But my message to the Dark Souls community, if you guys continue keeping this up, if you guys continue to hate, if you guys continue to do any type of non-constructive criticism, you are going to shut out a good majority of people who would want to get into this gaming, who would want to get into this aspect of gaming. So we all know From Software is harder than most games. We understand that. And with Elden Ring, it was able to blast into the mainstream, and it was able to encompass a good amount of different people that may have never tried Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Sekiro, and it gave it a little bit more leeway for it to be amongst the casuals, right? If you love From Software games, and if you love games like this in general, you guys have to calm down with A, being toxic, and B, telling people how to play their game or do the necessary requirements in order to make the game even harder than it actually is. There's been a couple of posts when it comes to using the Mimic tier as well as different weapons that you shouldn't be using, especially when it comes to Elden Ring, and then when it comes to how to play the game, that even Miyazaki has said that, hey, he uses Mimic tiers, and he will use tiers in order to advance the gameplay. If he didn't want it to be like that, then he wouldn't have put it into the game. But I want to strictly focus in on that Dark Souls review, and I also want this message is mostly for the Dark Souls review. I want to make sure that it sticks to the original Dark Souls remaster. In my other videos, I prefaced by saying that I have played my first game ever into the franchise was Dark Souls 3. Then I jumped into Sekiro, and then I also jumped into Elden Ring. And then now I'm working my way back to playing Dark Souls 1 and then Dark Souls 2. And then I also played the Demon Souls remake on PS5. When it comes to my love of these games, it's because I love how drastic it is compared to others, especially when it comes to the rewarding nature of it. I think that it is one of the most rewarding games out there ever. The studio really makes sure to reward you, especially when a game is hard. But the main issue that I have when it comes to these older games is a lot of people put in their nostalgia into it, especially when it comes to something that they're really passionate about. Nostalgia will really cloud judgment and really cloud people's beliefs into the game. I gave that game a 3 out of 10 based off of the other reviews that I've played with Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, other Souls like Elden Ring, Lies of P. When it comes to these games, they have worked from, so basically, there's a really good quote actually, if I want to tie this in together. This is basically, I forget exactly how this quote goes, but someone was, I don't know if it was Einstein or what, but someone was giving out a quote like, oh, you're so smart, you're this, you're that, like, you're amazing, you found E equals MC square. Let's just go say it's Einstein, right? You found E equals MC square. squared. And Einstein basically looks at the reporter or whoever's telling it. I forget the whole story, but basic premise is I stand on the shoulders of giants. Basically saying that he's standing on the shoulder of people in the past who allowed him to get to the formulas that he was getting to. I don't know if it was Einstein, but basically that's what I'm equating Dark Souls to. When it comes to these games like Elden Ring, Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, and other Souls like, it's standing on the shoulders of Dark Souls and Demon Souls, right? Original Miyazaki when he created it. Now, with that and saying that the game is a 3 out of 10, people are blowing this out of proportion and getting the amount of hate, which I was expecting because of just the community as a whole. From Software is just toxic as shit. So there's nothing, not From Software. From Software, the people in the community of From Software games are toxic as shit, especially when it comes to the negative. I'm not sure what's causing the negative emotion between people that's really getting people flustered. You guys might want to go outside every so often here and there. You know what I mean? Like, there's more to life than just playing a From Software game and doing different challenge runs. It's super fun. It's super awesome, but there's more to life than just going on someone and yelling your thoughts and your opinions and saying that the other person's opinion is wrong. Now with that being said, and with the messed up quote that I was trying to get out, because again, I just don't remember the exact of it, and I could look it up, but let's be honest, I'm not going to. It's what started the whole Souls-like franchise, right? So I could see where people are getting this hate from whenever someone says, hey, the game's not good, or the game is trash, or there's a lot of things that I'm glad that the game has improved on. I'm glad that Miyazaki has improved on. There's a lot of things that you can improve on from the original Dark Souls. There's nothing wrong with that. The game is good to a point, but it can't be any further than saying that it's a 3 out of 10 in my personal opinion. That being said, if it was the first game that you've ever played, you got nostalgia. You know what's led to be other Souls-like games, to led to be Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, Sekiro. Like, you know, and you're going to give it a higher reward system than it does not hold the test of time. So therefore, it can't, in my personal opinion, be more than a 3 out of 10, because I just can't see myself saying like, oh, this is a masterpiece compared to other people when they say it's a masterpiece. And I do think it's also the community's fault for it, not for my review saying that it's a 3 out of 10, or not because the review itself or the game itself is trash, but people put this game into such a high pedestal that they don't understand what they're actually doing to people's mind. They're warping their mind and saying that this game is a masterpiece. Any video that you see about it, unless the people are talking good about the game, there's tons of community outrage. There's tons of community toxicity and saying, oh, you're an idiot, your opinion is wrong, stuff like that. Multiple different things. Reddit, X, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, everyone's talking about it. So I'm not quite understanding why people are doing this. I think a good note for the community would be you need to relax and you need to calm down, especially when it's people wanting to come into this franchise, right? They want to come in and they want to check it out. Oh, what's all this hype? Why is it doing this, and this? Instead, you should be like, hey, if you want to get into this franchise, let's start with Elden Ring because it's the most polished and it's the easiest barrier of entry. And then if you want to challenge yourself, you're going to have to take aspects of Elden Ring and dial that back, and you're going to have some things that are just not going to be in the same consistency as Elden Ring. It's not going to be as smooth. The story isn't going to be as fleshed out. It's not going to have more than its fair share of different RNG trash, right? Where, for instance, when you go down to the Tomb of Giants, it's pitch black, but it won't be pitch black if you have the skull item that you can attach to a shield, and you have the specific helmet that makes it bright up, right? Whereas in Elden Ring, you go into the store right when you meet and it's telling you, hey, go over here to this church, right where you meet Ronnie and the guy, I forget his name, but you can buy a lantern and that's going to help you out in dark areas. Dark Souls, you had to go find out into another dungeon, or you had to defeat an enemy and hopefully get some RNG when it comes to the drop rate. And then you had to maybe go back and forth. Like, you have so many guides that you need for Dark Souls. And it's because it's an older game. It doesn't hold the test of time. It's clanky. I don't know how else to say it other than it's just not good. You would have to play the game and understand the feeling of the game to where it's like, this is not smooth versus this is smooth. This is a better ease of life. So when it comes to, like, for instance, transportation, when it comes to the Firelink Shrine to something else, you didn't have to be Ornstein and Smoke or whatever his name was, you could just get it off the rip. And they included that in Dark Souls 2. And there's a bunch of different things that you just don't have in Dark Souls. So that's why the review is the way it is. Now, imagine if instead of getting the hate and backlash, the community as a whole was like, hey, these are the necessary steps if you want to play in any From Software game. Here's what I would do. I would go from Elden Ring to Sekiro to DS1, 2, and 3, not DS3, 2, 1, right? Or give us some type of help. Because honestly, if you continue making the community as toxic as possible, it's going to diverge a lot of people from not even wanting to play it. They rather just not play it. They'll rather play something else, to where if they ask for help, they're going to be like, get shit on. Why are you using this weapon? Oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Your opinion is wrong. Blah, 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 blah. There's a multitude of different things that the community needs to work on. And I don't know how much of an audience this is going to reach. I felt the need to make this video because of what's going on in the comment section of the last review that I had. Hopefully this is going to be a little bit more serious for you guys, so that way you guys can get a better idea of where the review came from. I try not to goof around too much. I lowered down on the cursing. Didn't want to curse like a sailor this time because I know that can irritate some people when it comes to thinking that I'm just trying to rage bait. I'm not trying to rage bait. If I were trying to rage bait, I would have done it on TikTok. But I do want to go over some things that why is it showing on OBS? Jesus. I do want to go over some things that I want to talk about. These are the main things that I've seen that were kind of popping off in the comments nonstop. Skill issue, this is rage bait, and then items weren't to be placed in area to show off the story mode. Basically that it was put in there all along for art design, detail to push the story and the narrative further along. This, if you want to read it, you can. The basic premise of it is you can do that and it can be a way to push the narrative, but is it good, and is it actually helping someone that's trying to get out of a 9-to-5 and have some type of escapism when it comes to wanting to play a different story and having a different narrative, right? Does somebody want to go in and read an entire paragraph, or do they want to go in and just put their mind on blank and then just be set on, hey, I want to know what's happening by the story. I don't want to have it to where I have to read the item description. I have to look around my surroundings. I have to figure out what the item description is, who wore it last, why it's there, and every so often, right? It's a puzzle piece. I understand that. From Software, that's how they choose to write their narrative. That's completely fine. The only question I would have for you guys is, why would someone want to do that rather than go on YouTube, look up a 2 to 3 hour video and having the game explained to them? Because if that wasn't the case, if people honestly wanted to read the item description instead of actually get the narrative told to them in a nice, how do I say this? In a nice format, in a nice smooth format where it gets you from A to Z, instead of reading everything else and having to place it to yourself together. Why would the views be so high on these people who go over the narrative of Dark Souls, who go over the narrative of From Software games in general, or Lives of P, or any Souls-like game, where they choose not to show the narrative in the game? There's a caveat to having the narrative being told to that, where maybe not a caveat, but it's a double-edged sword, right? Where it's good and bad, because you can't have it where it's just good, this is how the story should be told, because other games would be they would follow suit. There would be no other option but to tell it like, if it was so good, if it was so done well, why do these videos exist, and why are they as popular as they are, and how are people still commenting on those videos, not quite grasping on the lore and the narrative? As a community as a whole, are you going to say that they're dumb and idiots too, instead of trying to explain, and hey, maybe we should tell some type of game designer, maybe you should work on this, maybe the narrative should be told a little bit better, maybe a little bit more cutscenes, or maybe a little bit extra than what you're giving us? Because I tell you what, from the jump from Dark Souls 1 to Dark Souls 3, there's a lot better narrative when it comes to Dark Souls 3. That was the first game and it was decently easy to understand. DS1 wasn't the case. Again, it does not hold the test of time, but it is one of the giants that other games stand on their shoulder, right? I understand that, but in general, if we're looking at it as an objective whole, it is not a good game, and that's where the review comes in from. This is rage bait, another one. It's not rage bait. I don't know how else to say it. I would make a short video saying that DS1 sucks, and anyone who doesn't agree with me is an idiot. I clearly didn't do that. I finished the game. I wrote my review. Boss fights weren't fun. Level design wasn't fun. Narrative wasn't fun. Weapons, I guess. It just doesn't hold the test of time. I think people need to calm down in saying that it's a masterpiece when it's not. You're putting too much. You're putting From Software on a pedestal that it cannot keep up when it comes to older games, and you're putting it into people's minds that this game is what started it off. It is what started it off, but you're making it to seem where it's like this is the creme de la creme. It's the best. It doesn't get better than this. You guys have to lower your expectations when it comes to new people who are getting into the franchise, and you guys have to say like, hey, this is an old game. It was a masterpiece to me. It may not be a masterpiece to you because we got Elden Ring, we got Sekiro, we got Dark Souls 3, we have a bunch of other things. Like, hey, how about you check out the lore, watch a couple YouTube videos before you get into the game. If you just want to treat it as a fun game where you go in and kill bad guys, boom, done, that's great, that's all you have to do, and it's hard, that's dope. I love these games because of that, right? You can go in, create a character, you know you're gonna get a challenge, fucking dope. I love that. That's what I like. That's what got me into DS3. I didn't know anything about Dark Souls 3, but I jumped into it. I didn't know anything about the game, but it was the way that it was, the design was better, the enemies were better, the ease of use was better, everything was just better, right? But as it should be, it's DS3 versus DS1. So I don't see any complaints onto my end like, hey, this DS3 to me is a 10 out of 10. I love that game more than I love Elden Ring. I don't love it more than Sekiro, but in my personal opinion, I think that's better than Elden Ring. Again, as a community as a whole, everyone fights too much about it though. How could you say DS3 is better than Elden Ring? How can you say that? That's a better, Elden Ring is a better game by far, bar none. You're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Your opinions aren't, the toxicity in that comment and in the community as a whole, you guys are insane. You have to calm down. Otherwise, people are not going to jump on board and people are not going to want to jump on to any From Software game. It's going to dilute to the people of, oh, you need to only use this weapon. Oh, why are you using the rivers of blood? You're trash. Da, da, da. It's gonna be too toxic, and then you're just left with toxic people playing the game. I'm telling you right now, that's gonna destroy a brand. You don't want to do that. And then skill issue and get good. The only thing I have to say to that is go touch grass. Most people are coming out of a 9 to 5. We don't have 14-hour days to consistently play a game to where you get to be running around no armor and no hitting the bosses, and you got a phenomenal 10 out of 10. You are awesome. You have the biggest dick in the world. You are really killing it at life here, dude. You're awesome. There's nobody better than you. You are God's son. You are better than Jesus. You are phenomenal. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. You are literally perfect. There's nobody more perfect than you. But yeah, guys, that's a little bit more of a serious video. Hopefully it didn't bore you guys too much. I just wanted to do this video instead of continuously commenting left and right on the last post. I understand when it comes to the negative reviews and the dislikes. I understand that. I'm cool with that. It is what it is. It's a franchise that cannot get any type of criticism, because if you do anything but criticize, skill issue, get good. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, leave it down below. If you guys didn't love the video, if you guys didn't like the video, go touch grass. No, I'm fucking with you. If you didn't, just give it a dislike. I mean, I don't know. I can't do anything about it. You're your own person. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that.